Today we're talking about raising polite kids. Yes? Okay, come on in, but give me a second. So I want to give you 20 very practical tips that are going to help your children develop habits that will make them more polite. Yes?
May I please have an apple?
Go ahead. Perfect. So what I'm getting into here is practical habits that children can build into their repertoire, which will help them develop social skills that help them be viewed well by other people, help them navigate social situations, and help people enjoy being around them. So let's jump in. Number one, my first tip is to actually explain to them at whatever age and ability level you can why it's important to them. Why should they want to be polite in the first place? So, of course, the reason is that it makes other people enjoy their company, enjoy being around them, and enjoy doing things for them much more when children are polite. So, explaining to your kids what's in it for them, in other words, that people will want to give them more things and want to hang out with them more and want to invite them over more, is going to help them see the value in all of these boring skills that we are trying to teach them. Number two, model good manners yourself. And this one goes without saying, but I was surprised when I became a parent how infrequently I use the word please. And I think in our culture, sometimes we don't use it a lot. But when you want a small child to say please frequently, you want to say it all the time and add it to your vocabulary. So certainly modeling all of the good behavior we talk about, or really any behavior that you want your child to have, is going to be a huge step in the right direction. Number three, we want our children to build certain keywords into their very regular vocabulary. We want them to say please when they want something. We want them to say thank you whenever they receive something. And it's great when they say may I if they're asking for permission to do something, which is more correct and sounds a lot nicer than can I do something. I try to avoid having them say I want. I want is great in that they're verbalizing what they have identified that they want. It just sounds very rude. So we need to help them take that next step and translate the I want this or that into, okay, well, I want something. So now how can I ask somebody to get that for me? That means it needs to turn into a please, may I have something? So we want to talk them through that transition and making sure that the words please and thank you are built into their everyday vocabulary all the time. Number four. One of the best ways to make sure that they use good manners consistently is to make sure that only good manners work. So if they're asking for something and they say, give me a milk, then if that actually works to give them the milk, it really doesn't matter what you say beyond that because it's effective. But if give me the milk never gets any milk, but please may I have some milk gets you milk, then they're going to use that frequently. Number five. Prompt your children at a young age to say things on the spot. So it's sort of on location training, right? So you want to tell your toddler or little kid to say thank you or please in any given context. So you can offer them the prompts and sometimes talk them through exactly what to say and they can repeat it. Number six, though, for older children, you want to praise them or make corrections to their behavior or their manners in private outside of the social situation. Hopefully by this point, they've built up good manners and they already tend to use great manners anyways, although we all know kids aren't perfect and we all slip up and need reminders. So do that outside of a social situation and hopefully set expectations as well for how you expect them to act in a given situation. Number seven, repeat yourself. Over and over and over and over and over. Manners and habits take a long time to build, and when children are living their lives, it is going to be a process of constant reminding and constant developing of their habits. So be prepared to repeat yourself over and over and over. Number seven, repeat yourself. I'm just kidding. Okay. Number eight, stress the importance of eye contact. Definitely when you're making an introduction or definitely when they're saying thank you for something, it's really important to help train your kids and walk them through that process of looking somebody in the eye to say thank you or to say hello. That's a skill that is again developed and that goes a really long way. People appreciate it and it's a skill that will serve them their whole lives. Number 9, this one I don't hear talked about, but I find myself doing it a lot, and I think it's really key, is volume control. So volume control is something they can work on from a young age. We all know little kids are screaming in the library or something like that. But beyond that, being aware of how quiet a room is as they get older or what kind of social situation they're in, and having them adjust their volume level accordingly is going to help them be polite and be well received in all kinds of circumstances. So volume control is a key thing to think about. Number 10, maybe the hardest one of all of these, and all parents deal with it probably all the time, which is interrupting. Children love to interrupt you all the time when you're having a conversation. I know it's true for me. So how do we handle this? First of all, you want to talk them through at a different time, maybe, what your expectations are. So talk them through the process. So we say, okay, when mom is talking, you're going to say, excuse me. And then you have to acknowledge them in some way. For an older kid, you can do what I did with Catherine, which is say, give me a moment, I'll be with you in a minute. For younger kids, a lot of times it helps to maybe just put your finger up or your hand up and let them know you're acknowledging them and you see them. Because a lot of the reason they say excuse me or mommy, 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 mommy over and over and over again is because they think you're not hearing them. And to be fair, sometimes that's true, right? So we want to be listening to them. We want to show them that we've acknowledged them and then have them wait. Oh, and this is the hardest part. And for little kids, it's almost impossible. And the older they are, the longer they can wait. But what you want to do is have them wait and then be sure that when you have a breaking point in your conversation, you don't forget to turn to them and then acknowledge their point. The more they still get their needs met by saying excuse me and waiting to be heard, the more they're going to use that skill. The more they feel like you never return to them in a conversation or that doesn't work, again, they're going to use what works. So if mommy, 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 mommy works, then that's what they're going to use. And it's not very polite, is it? Number 11, the best way to learn great manners and social skills is to be brought out into environments where people use great manners and social skills. So starting off with play dates or starting off with simple social environments are great. I even like to take my kids to much more formal social environments whenever possible and when it's appropriate for the event. But our children have gone with us to some of my husband's business conferences. They've gone with us to very formal places. I think it's great for them because the best way to learn good manners is to observe other people using them, and to be in an environment where that's expected is going to help that become second nature. Number 12, that brings me to my next point, which is prep them right before a social engagement. So whether or not you're going to a fancy dinner or maybe just to a friend's house, if you're concerned about their manners or you think they might need to step it up a notch, you might want to prep them, particularly on the car ride over is a great way to do it. So I know with my kids, a lot of times we'll talk about exactly what we want them to say when they get there, how we want them to greet somebody, and how we want them to behave at the dinner table. And so they have those expectations fresh in their heads when they walk in the door. It helps make a great first impression. So number 13, that brings me to coaching your children on specific things you want them to say, particularly for introductions and when you're leaving someplace. So coaching them through saying, hi, thank you so much for having us. We're so glad to be here. Or when you're leaving, say, thank you so much for having us. We really had a great time. Thank you. If you coach them through that, they'll know what's socially expected and really appreciated by most people when you come and when you go. Number 14, this is a real good one. What they do at home is going to be what they're most likely to do elsewhere. So if they are used to running like monkeys at home and jumping all over the furniture, do not expect them to go out to somebody's house and then all of a sudden act like they're seeing the Queen of England. It's not going to happen. So what I like to do is maintain a pretty high level of manners and standard for manners at home, because if they're used to doing it all the time, it gets built into their behavior. And when you go out with them, you really don't need to say anything additional because they're used to behaving that way. If you have children that are used to jumping on the furniture, don't be surprised when they come to your friend's house and they jump all over the furniture. Which, by the way, is my total pet peeve, drives me crazy. So however it is that you would like your children to behave in public, help them get in the habit of doing that at home. Meal times have their own huge set of manner requirements, and I'm just going to touch on a few here, although I'd love to do a more in-depth video, so let me know if you'd like to hear some more about table manners. I'm always stressing for my children to use silverware. They love to make everything a finger food and it gets super messy, so I encourage them to use silverware. Number 16, you really don't want your kids, if at all possible, to get in the habit of being really messy eaters where they fling food. And some of that in the beginning when they're little is just going to be fine motor control, right? They're going to make a mess. They're not going to be tidy eaters. But the more you encourage them to clean up their own messes and sort of draw attention to where they have made messes, they're going to learn to value doing that, and they're going to make less messes and become less messy eaters as they move forward. So I definitely let my kids clean up their own messes at the table, and I encourage you to do the same. Number 17, when they're through eating, have them clean up after themselves. Most kids can do this at a surprisingly young age. Kids at a fast food restaurant can grab napkins in a box and throw it in the trash themselves. You don't need to do that for them. And if they get, again, used to that habit, if they do it at home, if they bring their dishes to the sink, they're going to be used to doing that anywhere. So whenever possible, I encourage them to be in the habit of cleaning up after themselves. And number 18, if they don't like a food, they don't have to say anything. So I practice scenarios with my kids, or I coach them through what they can say if they really, really hate it and it's the most disgusting thing they've ever tasted. What do they say? Thank you. Right? So coaching them to not say, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever eaten is very helpful and very good manners. So I encourage children, even if they really don't like something, that's not necessarily something they need to share with everybody all the time. So they can say nothing. Number 19, I think that writing thank you notes is not a thing of the past, and it's still a great skill and it's still appreciated. And so I encourage my children to write thank you notes when they receive anything. For little kids, I've even found really cute cards that basically write in most of what they need to say and maybe just have them fill in a word or two so that they can practice their handwriting, which is a great practice for handwriting. It's practical and it's sweet. So it helps build a great habit. Number 20, I encourage you to let them give a gift. So let's say you're bringing food to a party, or they're bringing a present to a birthday, or maybe they're bringing a housewarming gift or something like that. If they're the one that gets to be the one to give the gift, they're going to get to feel what that gratitude looks like from somebody else. So they can get that feel good from being the one to present the gift. So I like to do that with my children. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you find it practical and useful for day-to-day tips that you can use to help your children develop those day-to-day habits that's going to give them great manners. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please give us a like, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Learning with Love.